Running Sentences presents A Spy's Dagger, Part 8, A Sieged Castle. With Dante in tow, Isla begins negotiations in a castle sieged by a variety of factions. Everyone wants their say and their share of the kingdom and doesn't want to share it with anyone else, pretty much. This story is written and narrated by Michael Connery. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within the story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and/or fictional businesses, characters, events, and so on and so forth is purely coincidental. Copyright 2025, Michael Connery. All rights reserved. The carriage rode its way up the crushed gravel road from the front gates to the courtyard of the castle. All along the way they were escorted by their guards and greeted by a collection of the castle guard soldiers standing around this courtyard waiting for them. The door to the carriage was then opened, to which Dante helped Isla get out, and then followed himself. No one looked like they had a friendly word from them. They were surrounded by guards all around. I will say this does not look good. You expect people to be nice, Dante? They want us to agree with everything that they want. Exactly, Isla. They should be nice and helpful to win us over. You know that these are mostly soldiers that are not really in charge here. They don't do nice things, though. They do violence. Only some of the time, Dante said. Whatever. Shut up and follow me. With eyes of pretty much everyone on her, Isla turns and heads up the front doors to the castle. They entered with their retinue of town guards into the foyer of this castle. There, standing in elaborate rows divided by carpets, stood two groups of people, each armed to the teeth and looking or glaring at their counterparts. Dante surveyed the group, trying to get a feel for things and see who was who. So far, though, they all wore the same colors and no one exactly there greeted them, even though that was exactly what they were there to do. It was Dante's hope it was the case anyway, or something was about to make sense. This is going well so far. And whispering about it to me isn't make it go any better. I said shut up and follow me. I've been doing that, Dante protested. There was a loud, booming voice that took over the room for a second. The Lady Isla and the former king's man Dante entering the royal house. They are greeted by Queen Ella and Captain Henry. Isla bowed slightly. Thank you for the introduction. Dante, though, kept a careful watch on the nearby stairs that were in front of them. There was an obvious divide between the groups, but other than that, they looked pretty much the same as one another, with nothing making them stand out, like the colors that they sort of only slightly wore. It would be nice if they had done something to differentiate themselves. It's going to be difficult to keep them all straight if asked to do so. Ah, Your Highness, it is good to see you, Isla said. Isla announced, and looking back to the stairs and realizing his gaze had wandered, Dante saw Ella coming down towards them. Next to her was his former friend, marching stiffly and looking rather unhappy. Served him right, Dante figured. It is good to see you as well, Lady Isla. I see that you brought in a stray. Not a stray, Your Highness, but a worker who can help sort out this mess, Isla replied. The Queen did not make a mess. Captain Henry, I did not say that she did. I only implied that there was a mess, and it would be good to sort it out. Is that okay with you? The captain opened his mouth to respond, but got a sharp elbow from the new queen to stop him. As you can see, we have factions fighting for power here. It needs to be sorted out. You, Lady Isla, are a known go-between for many parties. We need your help. And I will gladly provide it for you, Princess, Queen, Your Highness. But who is the representative for the other side? A soldier on the right stepped forward, a gruff, scarred-looking man with a face weathered with wrinkles, facial hair, and more scars. "That would be my job." "And you are, sir?" Isla asked. "Captain Baldric, representing Princess Isabella." Good. Now we need to have a good, nice, long chat about what both sides want out of all of this. Please show us me to a room that would accomplish this." Even though Isla ordered this, no one moved a muscle. "Is there a problem with that request?" Isla asked, looking about the room. "The man next to you doesn't belong here." "He does if I say he does. You do not get to negotiate that fact, princess." "I am the queen of this country, Lady Isla." Isla shook her head at that announcement from the princess. "Currently, you have a claim on it, and unless you want all of this to dissolve into an all-out civil war, you'll listen to me on this, all because you weren't thorough enough to get rid of your sister's people." "I object to his presence because he has a stake in this." "You also have a stake in this, Captain. Don't think that has gone unnoticed. The only reason Mr. Dante might have a stake in it is because you sent him along with Princess Isabella to that estate. Right, Dante?" "Yeah, that would be true, and even then, I don't really have one." "Let it be noted that I do not like this and think it goes against all that we should be striving for." Queen Ella, or Princess Ella, or whatever Ella was going by, said. "Noted. Now to the important talks," Isla requested. The princess/queen let out a soft sigh and nodded. "Up these stairs will bring us to the room we've arranged to hold this." The two that were on the stairs then turned and headed back up them, having only come down a few feet to have this conversation. There was a rough rush from both sides to be the ones to get up the stairs first. Maybe not necessarily first, but before the other side does. Isla's town guard were also eager to get into this mess as they formed a protective circle so that she and Dante could walk easily. It was a great big mess of humans trying to squirm their way to the top without any thought about all of it. Dante shook his head at the sight and found himself sighing. They wound up in the war room. Plenty of maps and weapons dotted the place, most of them for show, but a few could probably be used in a pinch. A long table had been set up for them, but even that didn't provide nearly enough room for everyone who tried to crush themselves in there to sit down at. Instead, it was mostly a few captains from both sides, with Ella and Henry sitting at the far end of this table. And at the exact other end sat Isla and Dante, and he was starting to worry and wonder about all of this. "Now, I have gotten your request, Ella, but I do not have any from the Princess Isabella. Captain Baldric, do you have some sort of demands for her?" Isla asked. "I do, but not written down. We want what is rightfully ours and not to be treated like second-class citizens who will be executed on the spot. That is our main demand." "I have done nothing to suggest that I want to execute anyone, Captain Baldric." "Forgive me, Your Highness Princess, but you got rid of the majority of your sister's supporters. How is that not a sign that you want to get rid of us?" "Mr. Baldric, I highly suggest you stop making insinuations about my future wife and that she is a liar. Otherwise, you will wind up on the chopping block," Captain Henry roared. "Dante," Isla cut in, "you have seen the princess most recently. What do you think she wanted?" "To find out what's going on here and why her sister had reportedly taken over. Are we going to ignore, Captain Henry's threats?" "For the sake of moving things along, yes, Dante, yes. Now, as far as I understand it, Ella, you want the kingdom and don't want your sister to get any of it?" "She has no right to it, as she is second in line." "But the last will I heard about split the kingdom." The soon-to-be queen of the land gave Dante a hard stare for his words, her lip curling up in annoyance, but apparently couldn't come up with the words to denounce it, yet anyway. Another matter that needs to be settled then. The old will, Isla announced. It was voided and everything given to me, Princess Ella was quick to say. Isla looked over back to Ella, who sat there regally in her chair, very far away, but still easily talkable, and a sort of shouty distance. I take it then you have this in writing or in some form? Yes, but no. We were sure it was among my father's files before his untimely passing, but cannot be currently found. The search for it continues, and we will carry on until we do find it, the princess said. Dante had been looking about the unsteady group, none of them looking pleased to be there. It was only a matter of time before something broke out, and the princess, and whoever she proclaimed herself as, words would not help matters. His gaze continued to sweep about the place, looking for any hidden dangers or the nearest escape route, just to be safe, as Isla continued to talk. Do you think it is hidden around somewhere? That is what my queen is implying, yes, Lady Isla. A good thing we have a smart person who knows how to find things, then. Realizing that she was talking about him, Dante threw a sharp look to see if she actually did mean him, and yes, she was in fact looking directly at him. This, Dante could already hear, was not going to go well with the rabble-rousing objections. I object, he is biased. If I am, it would be because of Ella's effort to get rid of me, Captain Henry, thinking I would be on Bella's side of all things. I don't take sides until I know which way the wind is, which way things are going. As for where he may have hid this paper, I can certainly search for it, and if you want, each side may have a representative with me, and we can start tomorrow morning. I continue to object. Noted, Mr. Henry. Does the side for Princess Bella have any objections? Well, we would like to name the person who goes along and helps in this search. I might be better if I were to name them, but who do you have in mind? Isla asked. Baldric jerked his big hand up from the table and pointed his thumb towards the elegant-looking young woman sitting next to him. She didn't really look like she belonged in all of this, but there she was, elegant and sitting very straight, almost in ageless wonder with how pretty she was. Dante looked at her for a moment to see if she reacted, and if he recognized her. No to both those questions that had popped into his mind. This is Lady Amelia, one of Princess Bella's many friends, Captain Baldric said. Are you interested in doing this little mission, or would you rather hold off? There is no wrong answer, and please feel free to explain why you might be a good choice, Miss Amelia. I would be honored to help out, Lady Isla. As I understand it, I do not have much say in this matter. I know my way around Bella's rooms, so if it is hidden in there, for whatever reason, I can be of help with that. Yes, as you can see, that would be a good thing to have. Now, as for the other side, do you have a person that you would nominate for this task? We aren't going along with this, Lady Isla. As my fiancé says, we cannot go along with this, Princess Ella said. Except you will, Princess. Why, Lady Isla, would I do that? I see no reason for it when I have already commenced a very good search of this palace. For the sake of fairness, and so that the other group doesn't dismiss your paperwork as fake because it randomly came up from nowhere in your search, Lady Isla pointed out. If I wanted that, it would already be done. I have no need to fake such things when I'm right in my search of things. Then perhaps so you cannot claim that the other group has randomly come up with a testament that you cannot find. Ella flinched at that, thinking it over for a moment and realizing that, yeah, the other side could claim that they had the papers. And it showed all around the table with groups on both sides. They didn't like the idea that they were now grumbling as a result. Taking it all in and seeing that there was all sorts of growling and growing frustration amongst the group, Dante stood up. A few turned their attention to him, but not many, until his hidden dagger thudded into the table in front of him, having pulled it out and jammed it in. Shall we get this matter settled sooner rather than later? The more people searching for this paper or any evidence, the better, right? Let's get this done and over with, then. Then why did you propose to start tomorrow? The princess demanded now. To let your sides plan out how you want to do this, princess? Or to undermine the situation? I don't know. It felt like a cooling off period would be a good thing before we try and get to things. But now? There were more grumbles all around as he fetched the blade out of the table and turned to Lady Isla. She caught his look and made a soft smile and nod as he continued to speak out. The group's attention had waned a little bit, so he spoke up even louder. I'm going to start my search, I guess. Anyone who wishes to join me may do so. I'll be in the Princess Abella's room. He turned and began walking away before anyone could speak. There was the sound of scraping chairs against stone, though, which told him he at least would have some company. It might not be the friendliest of company, but it would be some. The search of Abella's room had gone about expected. Nothing out of the ordinary and lots of fancy-looking clothes, though a few papers had been found. They were mostly about how the kingdom should be run, and there was an agreement with her sister Ella that they should split the country. He'd been joined by Lady Amelia, as stated before, and a man named Hornsgood, who was working for the soon-to-be queen. Both had actually been good help, and hadn't complained much about what they were doing. I say that I think we're covered most of this room and found nothing. I do have to agree with that man, Mr. Dante. There's nothing out of the ordinary here. Yes, I agree with you too, but I feel like we're missing something here. I don't know what it is, since we turned over all of the paintings and all of the areas that could hide things. Just something about this room or something just feels like it is off. Well, what do you want to do then? This is your operation. Hornsgood asked. Not sure yet. Do either of you have any recommendations? He asked this while eyeing the room once more, not looking to them. Well, I would say check Princess Ella's room, but I don't think that she wants us to go in there. She has checked and rechecked that room along with her father's, so I've heard, Miss Amelia. So I think she wants to keep it private, but we could ask. Hornsgood replied. You're going to poke the person who appointed you to this job? I've nothing really to gain from all of this fighting, so no matter who wins. My wish, though, is to see it all finished quickly, so that people do not have to suffer. An admirable goal, Mr. Hornsgood, though one that will probably not be completely fulfilled thanks to the fighting that is probably happening all around. True, sir. The faster, though, the better all around that we can end any violence, Hornsby said. Do you think, Mr. Horngoods, that there's anywhere that she hasn't checked? No, but we could check the old dungeons. If you wanted to hide something away, why not put it there? Well, because it's paper, and that place is notoriously damp and soggy, Lady Amelia asked. Well, I suppose, but do you know these prisons well, Lady Amelia? No, but our former ruler once took a few of Abella's and Ella's friends down there to show it off. Mr. Hornsby reminded us of what could happen should we do anything that might make the princesses sad. The man loved to make threats and show people the worst parts of this world. Dante said this with a shake of his head and made a follow-me motion. He was headed for the door and for the dungeons. It had been a little while since he'd last been there, and thankfully they weren't the types of places to change much. The three had headed down there and were greeted by a dubious-looking guard guarding the entrance to the dungeon. He didn't argue with them, though, merely gave them a strange look and opened the door for them. A torch-lit hallway that led to a staircase greeted them with a few locked-up cells on either side before that stairs down. It was already cold, dank, and rather damp for Dante's liking, but he approached that first cell. "Is there anyone in these cells?" Dante asked aloud. The new queen did not have anyone arrested, so unless the king previously had them sent down here," Hornsgood offered. "When I came down for the tour several years ago, they were all empty, but maybe that has changed?" "Well, the king certainly seemed more paranoid recently about people doing things to his kingdom." Even though he said this, Dante wasn't sure if it was entirely true. Yes, he'd been sent on several missions to see what people were up to, but any arrests for those were generally sent to the prison outside of the city where he had been sent after being captured by Captain Henry. He really didn't want to risk it, though, and to get a jump scare from someone who was hidden away in here. "Hello, is there anyone inside here, aside from the guards in here?" Amelia had stepped closer to the stairs to shout this down them. Only the echo of her voice came back. "Nothing to do but have a good look, I suppose. Shall we look at these cell rooms, or go down to look at the ones below there? How deep does this place go, anyway?" Hornsgood asked as he looked around. "Well, I've only been down one level. Mr. Dante, do you know?" From what I know, there are about 3 floors total, Lady Amelia, but I have not really visited them either, so there may be more that I was not made aware of." "Well, then, shall we start here with these 6 cells?" Hornsgood asked. "That's fine by me." "Yeah, grab a torch, look them over. I doubt we find anything, but it should be a way to get started. It's getting late anyway. Who knows how long this is going to take." The 3 split up, each taking up a torch from the nearby wall and searching the cells. They were all dingy and barren of anything, minus a few stray strands of hay that were left behind. There were no great clues or anything like that, or that Dante felt were great clues, though he did notice in one of the cells that there were quite a few holes in the walls, which was odd. He couldn't quite place it, but that was definitely out of place, and they didn't really scream like escape attempts, and, well, he shrugged and left it so that he could think about it. The second level had more cells, and it was a darker looking space overall. Their torches had a harder time cutting through the muck of darkness and to the cells. Much like the ones upstairs, they didn't have much to show, and it had been a slow process, scuffling their feet over the flooring of each cell in the hallway to make sure nothing escaped notice, like a trap door or anything like that. It was an effort, and it was getting late by the time they had swept through this place, with the 3rd floor, just below them, untouched. "I think that will do for the night. Thank you. Nothing we've found yet really screams out to us. Tomorrow morning I'll be here looking around. You'll feel free to join me or not." He watched the grateful expressions cross their faces through the light that he could see. A certain level of tiredness had consumed his 2 companions, and they were just done with trying to complete this task. "I shall endeavor to be here, sir, but no promises, and I don't know how my faction will take the search news so far." "Likewise from my side, Mr. Dante, but they will probably not be surprised by not finding it," Hornsgood added to Amelia's comment. "Understood. Have a good night." The 2 were quick to hurry away and up the steps. Dante took a few more moments to look around before following. He made it to the 1st floor of the dungeon before stopping by the nearby cell that he'd seen the holes in. There was no changes to them, but he couldn't help but stare at those holes in the wall and regretted not asking Emily if she knew about them. She wasn't here, though, so the guard would have to do, and Dante coughed loudly until the guard at the door came through looking at him. "Can I help you, sir?" "Yes, you know about these cells, right?" "A bit, yes, not much," the guard said quickly. "Please come here and take a look at this cell, or the one closest to you. It doesn't really matter which one you choose." "Okay, why, sir?" I'm trying to figure out if something is off about these prison cells. And you probably have checked these cells over more than a few times, right? I've patrolled and looked them over, yes. The guard was looking rather uncomfortable with these questions, shying away and trying to step back through the doorway. Dante wondered what that was potentially all about, but then shrugged to himself. Just humor me and take a look and tell me if you think they look any different from what you usually see. Is that too much to ask? No, sir. There was still some reticence from the guard on his side of things, but he took the torch from the wall and went to a nearest cell, opening the door and then stepping in. A few seconds later he emerged again. There's nothing with this one. And what about this one? Dante asked, pointing to the one closest to him. The guard came over, went in, looked it over, then came out. There's something different here, sir. With the holes? There was a moment of surprise in the guard's face as he nodded yes to Dante's question. They're weird, sir. Never seen them before. And when was the last time you actually examined these cells? Dante asked. 2 weeks ago, sir. We cleaned them out to make sure no creatures or thieves are trying to sneak in there. To sneak in? That was a worrying thing, but Dante figured he didn't have time for an answer for it, nor would this man probably have an answer as to how or why these holes got there in the first place. They might have been created by someone within the castle, or maybe someone trying to get in. Thank you, that will be all. I will leave now, but I'll be back in the morning. Dante had retired to his bedroom in the castle, but froze upon entering the chambers. Lady Isla sat at the desk he had and was looking over a small notebook, one that he had hidden away many, many years ago that would provide some hints as to where he'd hidden his money. You're finally back. Find anything? You already know that answer is no. So why are you in my room? Needed a place to get away for a while from the questions on either side of the situation. Oh, by the way, I believe we will be joined by the other princess within a day or two. Well, that will make things bad. Yes, so you better find that paper that Ella claims exists, quickly. You trust that it actually exists in the first place? She slowly shook her head now as he went over to the bed and sat down on it, heavily. He was slowly taking off his boots, while waiting for her reply as she thought it over. It is probably fake, but who knows? Best to look for it, find out what's going on. And have you found out why all of this is happening now? There was a long look from her, which he said he should already know the answer to this. A power grab? But why now? The king hadn't been healthy for a while, and it had only been a matter of time for him to kick the bucket, so to speak. Dante mulled over in his head. I think it is the usual. Can't wait around for people and want to grab power. From what I gather, there may have been a deal. I saw at least an agreement in principle between the two princesses to work on things together, but, Well, that's good to know, though Ella probably wouldn't deny any such deals, so it won't give us much power to work on or to deal with, Isla replied. Do you want a deal? It would be better to simply ride off of here and get away from this country. Yes, it would, but I rather like it here, and this is my way of keeping people alive, especially ones that I care about. I can't simply throw them away and leave. He nodded along, hearing her, as he didn't have any of those things really. He could simply leave and walk out the door to the nearest country and start over. Alas, that would probably lead to him being hunted down for the rest of his life, since royalty never took kindly to people just leaving without permission first, and even then, it was quite a conundrum to be stuck in, and there was really only one answer he could go with, and that was just to accept it. He would simply have to do this job. No chance of you letting me leave, then? He asked. I do not think that would be a good idea for you. Yeah, no, spending the rest of my life looking over my kind of shoulder thing, he said with a frown, looking over his shoulder. Yes, so I'm sure you already do that, but I can offer you protection against such things. He felt an eyebrow raise in surprise by that. She didn't seem like the type to offer promises that would be really hard to keep, and that comment made it seem like that she might have such a promise for him. I'd ask why you're making that offer, but it is perhaps best not to know. He paused for a second, then carried on. So all we're doing is finding that wheel or any papers that we can, then? Yes, things won't move forward according to Ella unless we have her paperwork, she replied with a sigh. Unable to stop himself, he snorted at that. And that will probably doesn't exist, does it? You'll have to prove that if that is the case. And do you have any hints as to where it might be? Ideas of weirdness that have shown up, but nothing really, he said with a frown. Where did you search? The bellows room and then the prison, which we didn't finish looking through. Dante's answer caught her so off guard she looked at him confused and asked, Why there? It was suggested, and well, if you want to hide something, hide it in a place you probably no longer use. She nodded thoughtfully after a moment, then rose from the seat and went over to him. Leaning down, she met his eyes, and then gently kissed his forehead. It was a confusing moment for him as he tried to figure out what was going on, then gave up as she strode towards the door. Stay safe. I don't know who we can trust, though I doubt you trust anyone to begin with. What was that? Whatever you want it to be. Good night. Stay safe, will you? She said this while walking over to the door, opening it, and then leaving. Dante sat there for a second, trying to think about that, and gave up. His mind was too tired, and somehow happy a bit. It was a muddled mess of thoughts that took their time sorting through his mind, going nowhere fast and getting nowhere fast, or coming to any great conclusions before he managed to slip off to sleep. Having awoken early, Dante had gone down to the first floor of the dungeon to look at those holes again. He was standing in the cell studying them when Lady Amelia came in and knocked on the metal bars. You didn't go to the third floor? No, shit. Did you and Hornsgood go down there, Lady Amelia? No, we've just arrived, but I thought that's where you would be, only to be passing by and see you in here. He nodded, acknowledging that he probably should have gone down there, but these holes were weird enough to puzzle and frustrate him. There had to be some sort of answer, though what they could lead to wasn't exactly clear. I just felt like I needed to examine this place more. These spots in the walls don't make sense to me. Was someone tunneling in, sir? Hornsgood stood in the doorway behind Emily and squinted at what Dante was pointing towards. No one has been put in prison in ages. Why would they tunnel out? Lady Amelia asked. Coming in, then? Hornsgood retorted. The holes were made from inside the cell. How can you tell that, Mr. Dante? There are little stone fragments on the floor and the holes coming to an end after a few inches. None of them are opened to see a space beyond this wall, at least that I can see. Oh, we are very good eyes then, sir. Not really, Mr. Hornsgood. I've spent much of the morning looking over every inch of this place. You tend to see and notice what you want to, and I do feel like this is something I wanted to see. Lady Amelia stepped up to the holes and probed them with her fingers. She stepped back, looking at them hard for a second. It's certainly not a part of the cell. I think they were put here on purpose. For us to find, though, Lady Amelia? She turned to Hornsgood and gave him a sort of shrug. Why else would they be here? They remind me of a trap I once saw Princess Abella use, involving a dagger. It unlocked a sort of secret chamber in the castle. Could be a similar thing here. If only we had a dagger that looked like it fit the hole, Hornsgood said to her. Dante pulled out his dagger that had been given to him by the king a couple of years ago. He studied it for a few seconds and then turned the other two. This blade might work. Before either of them could respond to him, he began pushing the blade into the 20 or more so odd holes, until about the 14th time, which he had actually lost track of, when a loud click was heard. End of part 8 of A Spy's Dagger. Thank you for listening.